But I survived 1997 when we were down to 166 MPs. My son-in-law, James Cartledge, has survived this tsunami. I think what characterises this conference is that I think there's a sense of relief that the day-to-day responsibilities of government have been shed.
Obviously we suffered a very big defeat in July, and I think a lot of people expected it would be fairly downbeat, but I think everything in life is relative, and I think with the fact that Labour are going through some troubles of their own now, and I think we can see now we've got a way back that we can win in 2029. So I think that's a view widely held in the conference, I think.
But as Robert Jenrick says, it's not about personalities, it's about policies. And we have to be clear that reform took a lot of votes from the Conservative Party. It's deep disquiet, and we have got to persuade them that reform will not deliver a government, let alone the sort of government they want. But that it's the Conservative Party, the 200-year-old party, one of the oldest parties in the democratic world, that, providing it reorganises, I believe will take the next.
Given the drubbing that the Conservatives took at the last election, why should the public pay attention to the Conservatives now?
Well, the Conservative Party is the oldest and most successful party in the UK, one of the oldest in the world, and we've got a proud record in government for pragmatism, for responsibility. So for me, being a Conservative...
torched under the last government?
Yeah, it wasn't a good government. We know that there were issues with COVID. We faced some significant challenges which any government would have struggled with. But the important thing for me is that we take the essence of what's good about conservatism. We take the best of what we did right. We rebuild the party with good policies, and it's important that we also have a clean sweep. In other words, we need to bring new people into the party, people who are there for the right reasons, people who are objective, people who want to work for the public good, people for whom public service is very important. And I think it's important that we rebuild that trust with the electorate, which we will do, because conservatism is fundamentally a good thing, and it's been a good thing for the country as well.
And there's going to have to be a lot of choosing between policies that we can actually believe in and that we want to do, and things that are going to grab headlines. And I think if we carry on doing the sensible thing of proposing sensible policies, we might put together quite a coherent and decent offering to the public. And if we go off grabbing headlines, we'll not do that.
Are you talking about Kemi Badenoch there?
No, not anybody in particular. I'm not slagging anybody off.
It sounds like you're slagging off Kemi Badenoch.
No, not at all. You might think that, but I couldn't possibly.
Are you concerned about the threat of reform to the Conservative Party?
I think everybody is. Ultimately, the issue that we'd like to see is, bearing in mind we're a broad church, embracing them rather than coming up against them, if that makes sense. Not all reform members really want to be part of the Conservative Party, but some do, and I think ultimately if we can get to the right point with them, we'll be able to deal with an ability to deliver perhaps a new government in a few years' time that is perhaps more encompassing of our views and accepting the fact that we're a broad church from right through to roughly marginally left of middle.
Is that short-sighted or maybe a bit too optimistic given the extent of the defeat in Conservatives? It was the worst result the Conservatives have ever had.
If you look at the data behind that, a couple of things I'd say. Labour was never popular on the doorstep. I'm actually a member of Parliament for Thurston Malton, and I'm a shadow business secretary, Kevin Hollingrig. And so on the doorstep, Labour were never popular. Keir Starmer was never popular. That wasn't the reason we lost. The reason we lost was that we made our mistakes, and I think understandably people punished us for that. So we didn't get our vote out, and some of our vote disappeared to other parties. But to win, no government in living history has won a majority with 34.7% of the vote. That's never happened before. So they're reading a big electoral mandate or a big majority as a false reading. And obviously their popularity is dropping like a stone right now. So I don't think it's a pipe dream at all to expect us to get back in 2029. Nor is it a given. And we need to work very hard and get our act together and get a good leader and be united behind that leader. And so I think it's a realistic ambition.
How do you think the party can and should get those voters back from reform?
Well, first of all, you've got to show that you're competent. Secondly, you've got to show that you are real Conservatives, not ersatz Tories. And I think Jeremy Hunt, who was my neighbour when I was the Member of Parliament for Aldershot, a great guy, but we cannot drive away enterprise, we cannot drive away investment by punitively taxing commerce and entrepreneurs. Friends of mine who are entrepreneurs talking about leaving the country. This is not new, it happened before under Labour. It happened in Harold Wilson's time. Entrepreneurs were driven out of Britain. And that is, I fear, what is going to happen again. But we'll have to see what Rachel Reeves produces in her Chancellor's statement next month.
What do you make of the term woke?
What does it mean? I have no idea what it means. Seriously, I sometimes call myself woke, not because I particularly identify with everything woke people say, but from what I understand, they're going in it they're concerned about people, they want to help people, and although I disagree with some of the ways that woke people sometimes go around it, that doesn't mean I need to throw a label at them and just sort of, it's a dismissive label, and I just don't think we should be using that. We should be engaging with debate with other people and trying to figure out the real issues at hand in our country today, and not just dismissing them as woke. I think it's a really harmful term and a waste of time.
Do you have a preference for who wins the leadership?
Well, I said I'm happy with all four candidates. I worked with Tom Tugendhat when he was at the Ministry of Defence. We were both there when I was there. James cleverly took over Conservative Way Forward from me, and I became its president in succession to Margaret Thatcher. So I'm a complete Thatcherite, and so James has those qualifications. I don't know Kemi Badenoch. I like much of what she says, but I've come to the conclusion that Robert Jenrick's 10 principles and the manner in which he's expressed them do tick the boxes for me. And so I'm supporting Robert. I believe he's set out a really proper, true Conservative programme. He's given it a lot of thought, including to the detail, which you have to do even when you're in opposition, because we've got to win people back, persuade them that we are actually serious and competent. We won't do that unless we have some reasonably detailed policies. Obviously in opposition you don't go into too much detail. And the public will know, of course, this Labour government came into office promising virtually nothing. They made no policy statements beyond building on the green belt and driving the aspirational classes out of independent education by putting VAT on independent school fees. Class war in its full naked glory. And so we don't need to be too detailed, but people have got to understand where we're going to, not where we've come from, but where we're going to, because they were very disillusioned with the last government, I'm afraid.